Sinead. Sinead Rutherford, candidate number 2894, Aquinas College, A2 E and A. Right, Sinead, what we'd like to do is talk about the clip you've just watched, talk about the performer's strengths and weaknesses in terms of skills, tactics, fitness, prioritise an area of weakness and formulate an action plan which brings in all the different areas of theory that we've been studying. Okay, good luck.
Okay, so I'm going to be evaluating the girl off the video because she shows the most variation in skills, tactics and fitness and the strengths and weaknesses of them. A good strength was that she had a strong stomach punch. This is good, and it would be good tactically as well because she can fight off the opponent and gather a good strike contact. She also had good control on it. Stomach punch is meant to come out from the side, and it's if you're not meant to move your elbow, which she wasn't doing, which was good. However, it was also one of her weaknesses because she was pulling back before she punched. This is also a tactical weakness because she's giving away the surprise to the opponent. However, when she was doing it, she was very focused. This is good, and it shows a level of channeled aggression, which is known as assertion. Another strength of skill level was her kokuts, which is a stance towards the end of the kata. This was good because she had her heels in line with each other, a back foot was facing outwards on a right angle, and a front foot was forward. This showed good balance, as a centre of gravity was towards, as she got sunk down into it, which means that a centre of gravity was close to the floor, which meant she had more balance for herself. Tactically, this is good because if she was to face an opponent in a kumite setting, the opponent wouldn't be able to push her over, and she's less likely to slip. However, a weakness that she showed in a skill level was her gedenbrai, which is a downwards block, which is meant to be just over the knee to stop any kicks coming in or any low punches. This was a weakness because it was too high, so it could be mistaken as a punch, and it wasn't drawing back to her arm wasn't drawing back and drawing down the opposite arm while she was doing it. This means that it couldn't get enough power on it. Another weakness was her long stance, as she wasn't deep enough into it, meaning that she could have easily been pushed over. This mixture of strengths and weaknesses in skill level shows that she's only at participation level on the sports development pyramid, as she's too good to be a beginner, which would be foundation level, which is like school level or beginner, but she's not quite there to be at performance level yet, as she's not good enough for competition, as she'd easily be beaten, as her strength and skill level isn't quite there. But if she was to get to this level, she could then progress on to elite level, which would be professional competitions, and she'd be going higher and higher up the grade boundaries within the sport. However, there's a chance that she might not carry on due to the lack of media coverage of the sport and the stereotypes surrounding the sport, such as minority groups, as her being a girl, might impact her esteem because she might be seen as manly due to the stereotypes surrounding the sport, and with it being a fighting sport, other people might view it as violent, and girls aren't meant to be violent within the eyes of sport. Another tactical strength was that she was doing a lower grade kata than her belt, which was purple. This is a good tactic because in competitions if she was to do that, and if she was to perfect it, which it wasn't quite there yet, but she can practice and practice, she can make the skills habitual. This would happen by constant repetition of the skill, as the skill is currently in the short-term memory. The more she repeats it, it can be codified into the long-term memory, and this skill will then become habitual and she'll be able to retrieve it when she's doing a performance. But this was a good tactic because in competition level, if she was to do a lower grade kata, she would receive more points for the skills that she's showing. However, it would also be a weak tactic, as if she was to do a higher kata than her grade, she would also receive more points if she can do it well, as the lower grade kata would need to be perfect in order to do it. A strength of her fitness was her speed in executing the moves. This was a strength because she showed good speed when she was doing a head level block, as it would have stopped anything that was coming up, and it was in the right positioning as well. So it was also a strength of a skill level because it would have stopped anything from going over it. A speed comes from muscle fibres, and it would have come from a fast twitch or fast twitch type 2, which would be short bursts of energy, which she was showing, with a mixture of type 1 muscle fibres, fast twitch type 1 muscle fibres, which is mainly used for runners, footballers that are doing short bursts of energy and long bursts of energy, because they're also, and throughout the kata she uses them because she's going at different speeds throughout it. Some bits are quicker, so she's using both short bursts and longer bursts of energy. Another strength of her fitness was her balance. This was good because at no point did she stumble, so she kept her centre of gravity close to the floor and was able to keep it at that level throughout it, so she wasn't bobbing up and down in the stance. However, a weakness of her fitness was her fatigue, as her legs were shaking a bit. This shows a build-up of lactic acid. This can be changed by doing a warm-up and cool-down at the beginning and end of the kata, as a warm-up can prepare the body for exercise, as it increases heart rate, which gets the blood pumping around the body faster, which is delivering oxygen to the working muscles. And a cool-down can relieve any pain or DOMs that can occur 24 hours prior to the exercise, 24 hours post-exercise, as it reduces the amount of lactic acid and cools the body down gradually rather than a sudden decrease in heart rate. Her main weakness was her long stance. This is because it's one of the very basic moves in karate, especially in first kata, which has it all the way throughout. This was a main weakness because she wasn't deep enough into the stance, which meant that she wasn't low down enough, as her front knee wasn't bent enough, and her back leg was a little bit bent as well, whereas that needs to be straight. And she was also leaning forwards a bit, which is flexion of the cartilaginous joints in the back. In my action plan, it's 6 weeks, and the time varies in each session from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. In week 1, I would just have her doing first kata 2 or 3 times, filming it each time so that she can look back at it and get any feedback off the coach that she needs. because external feedback would be good for her, as she needs somebody else with a higher skill level than her to show her, to tell her what she's doing wrong. The second week of my action plan, I would do some core strength exercises such as sit-ups and crunches in order to strengthen her muscles so she's able to keep her back up straight for longer, and then do first kata to finish, as it has the long stance throughout it. On my third week of the action plan, I'd do core strength exercises for 10 minutes again, just to further increase the core strength, the abdominal muscles, and then do first kata to end again. However, week 4, I would do core strength exercises for 5 minutes and then move on to flexibility exercises for 10 minutes in order to keep a varied practice so that the participant doesn't get bored, because this can demotivate her. And then ending with first kata in order to gather a kinesthesis of the long stance so that she can see where she's going wrong and improve the knowledge of the movement. In week 5, I would do static combinations of the long stance for 10 minutes in order to put it into a practical setting, again using varied practice so that the participant doesn't get bored and it can be used in different situations and environments. As well as this, in week 5 I would also do dynamic combinations of long stance, which would increase her aerobic endurance as she's moving and doing exercise while still trying to concentrate on the move. I would then end with first kata, again, just so that you can develop even more of a kinesthesis of the move. In my last week, I would retest the first kata and film it so that you can look back at the film and see how it's improved from the first week to the last week. Again, getting external feedback from the coach. And asking other members, such as higher level grades at the club that she looks up to as role models, as they may motivate her more than her coach or her parents, as she would try and imitate the role models. This comes from Bandura's observational model of learning, which shows that if you watch and pay attention to a demonstration and retain it, then you can do it, and if you've got the motivation to carry on with it and practice it, then you'll in the end you'll be able to gather the movement.